Joining us now, Democratic Senator of Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, a member of the Armed Services Committee. Good to see you, Senator. And you're one of 16 Democratic senators who signed a letter today asking for, frankly, a more sprawling investigative action beyond what we just talked about. Do you think ultimately the reality will lie somewhere in the middle? Are you more likely to have to, for lack of a better phrase, take what you can get from your Republican colleagues? Where is this realistically going?
I'm hoping for an even more aggressive, comprehensive investigative effort that will be bipartisan. This step, asking for the Inspector General of the Defense Department to do an inquiry, is a good one, very positive, bipartisan step. But these investigations by inspectors general often take months, sometimes years, and this one has to be prompt, penetrating, and unsparing. And in the meantime, let's be very blunt here. There was a likely crime committed under the Espionage Act, under the Federal Records Act. There should be a criminal investigation. I think there's grounds for a prosecution, but ultimately the evidence has to be assessed after the FBI, which has a criminal national security unit, to do an objective and independent investigation that could produce a prosecution. I also think that both Hegseth and Walz need to resign or be fired, because this breach of security for Hegseth follows a pattern, for example, inviting Elon Musk to come see China's war plans or our war plans against China. And that kind of disdain for proper security procedures, I think, really warrants very serious consideration, along with other failings.
So you understand prosecution. For folks who don't know, you were a chief federal prosecutor from your state. Is it clear to you that who might be potentially culpable, or at the very least, who are the people you most would want to hear from if there were some sort of hearing?
I think there should be a hearing. Very good point. A hearing before the Armed Services Committee, because as important as the investigation is, full disclosure to the American public, they deserve to know. And by the way, I am one of the leading proponents of declassifying information. At the end of our classified briefings in our SCIF here at the Capitol, I'm often the one who says, you know, everything we've heard, the Chinese know we know they know we know it. The only people who don't know it are the American people. But in this instance, this information was so clearly sensitive and so clearly a danger to the pilots flying this mission if disclosed. I'm as disturbed by the reaction of Hegseth and Walz, and I think they are the primary targets for this investigation because they organized the call, and Hegseth is the one who actually disclosed the information. But their reaction, nothing to see here, no problem, is profoundly disturbing from people who should know better.
Well, I wonder, does it change the equation, as Trump and other members of his administration have suggested, that the mission went off successfully, no lives were ever in danger? Even Marco Rubio said none of the information in that signal chat threatened the lives of U.S. servicemen. So if that is their position, are you hearing anything that suggests that you have Republican colleagues who would support a real hearing, who would support a broader investigation?
Only by good luck and the grace of a higher power are we not undertaking an after-action report on pilots downed and killed. Remember, the Houthis have highly sophisticated, lethal, Iran-supplied air defense missiles that can bring down the type of aircraft that were used. They had every reason to know when those planes would be over targets because they can calculate where they were coming from on aircraft carriers and how long it would take them to get there. So this information posed a clear and present danger to those pilots and other men and women in uniform. So the fact that there was success in the mission is no reason to disregard the very high risk and danger posed by using this commercial app when they could have used a really secure one. Think about the Osama bin Laden raid. and the famous picture of the president and leading members of his war cabinet sitting in the Situation Room, monitoring what was going on, all of them scrunched together because they had to be in that highly secure and secret setting. That's the kind of security that should have applied to this mission, and instead they used a commercial app. The breach, in fact, breakdown in security, I think is so jaw-dropping, but equally so the reaction that, well, nothing to be worried about here. It's a little bit like saying the drunk driver was never at risk because he made it home okay, so nothing to see here.
I'd like to, in our last minute, just ask you really quickly something else we're learning about today, Senator, and that is that Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. says he wants to slash 10,000 full-time employees across different departments, in addition to about 10,000 who have already chosen to leave since President Trump took office. Do you have concerns about the real-world impact on your constituents if this is what happens?
I have very deep concerns, yes. Thank you for asking about this slash and trash approach by Elon Musk, more of his handiwork. It will have real-life impacts. For example, the FDA, 3,000 workers lost there will mean delays in bringing new drugs to public use because the clinical trials and review may be delayed. New medical devices, new outbreaks of the kind of salmonella or other food contamination, also overseen by the FDA and prevented as well as stopped. And the CDC losing 2,000 workers, meaning that outbreaks of measles or other kinds of diseases may be put our people in Connecticut and all around the country at greater risk. And ultimately, cutting workforce at the agency that's responsible for Medicaid and Medicare indicates clearly where this administration is going. Expect cuts in Medicaid, but we're going to fight them. Medicaid is a key to health in Connecticut, as well as states all around the country for people who otherwise would have no insurance whatsoever. It's now the backbone of our healthcare system in many parts of the country, and these cuts at HHS simply are previews of coming not so attractive attractions coming down the line.